From the ECSI Sports Studios and the #1 sports investors in America, we bring you the closing bell. As the market closes, legends Jeff Dawson and Riley Magnuson bring you all the sports investing tips for tonight's matchups. If you want to learn more from the two legends at the desk, make sure you stay tuned to the closing bell.
ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your closing bell for Friday, April 12th, 2024. You made it. The weekend's here. Go grab yourself a cold one, sit back, put your feet up, and let's have some fun here. We got the Masters. We got, actually, Bryson with a 2-shot lead as Scotty just got one back there. UFC 300 on Saturday. Kind of curious if Riley might have some talk about UFC 300. And hats off to Dana. Dana White here, local legend here in Boston, upped up the ante for the up to 300,000. I think the bonus is this weekend in Vegas. MLB, of course. NCAA Final Four, now Final Two, as BC 3-1 favorites to beat Denver tomorrow night. Hats off to Anthony Pepe. Food Truck Festivals, of course, the Diehards Radio here with myself. 7-1 ticket that he is holding, and I gave out to the ECSI VIPs, which most people probably didn't buy, to win the national championship there. We got MLB tonight, East Coast. Weather is going to be a factor. I already have one game postponed. Yankees and Cleveland. Schmidt and Carrasco, that's been postponed. NHL, NBA, as NBA wraps up. Shout out to Kevin Goodrich, good friend, season ticket holder. Sending my two daughters, Caitlin and Kylie, to the Celtics game tonight. Hope you guys have a lot of fun. But it's great to be back on Fade the Public Friday. We don't want you to be that pizza man, as Senior Lucky will say. Everyone knows the story. It's payday. And what a lot of people want to do is, instead of going home taking care of the bills, they head on out to their local barbershop, their little tavern, or to the sports book. Place a few early evening wagers, and they tell the wife, "Hon, I'm getting pizza. I'm bringing it home. I'm bringing home dinner." And then what happens is they lose early. They didn't pay the mortgage. They didn't pay the cable bill, and they're doubling down on the West Coast trip. And then at 11 o'clock, the wife goes, "Hon, where's the pizza?" "Shit, it's on the oven." You get home at 11:30, and there it is. Cold pizza with your pillow and your comforter and the couch, where some people might be happy. So anyways, without further ado, let's bring in the co-host of the show, Mr. SouthSide Riley himself. What's up, champ?
Hello, my friend. Happy Friday afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the country, I guess. But it is a Masters Friday that's obviously not going to live down. It is a beauty of a tournament. I was going to say the beauty of a day there, but obviously some of the wind shots that you've seen, probably not saying the same for some of these people. I don't know if anyone saw Tiger on 18 30 minutes or so ago, but it was a rough scene. And to give you some solace, I know you're obviously got a lot of, and we'll talk about it a little bit with your your action on Scotty Scheffler, a nice birdie and a nice bogey from Bryson right subsequently to even that gap a little bit. So things are looking up. Got some fun. I'm watching John Rahm get pelted in the face with sand right now. he just if he can get him, as we're talking right into the Masters talk, if he can get himself a good finish today, despite all this wind, he'll have a chance. But obviously not a great day yesterday, and you and I were talking so far, at least on this Saturday, with the way the wind is going. There's really only a couple guys that have been impressive today, and everyone else is trying to tread water. I mean, Tiger Woods obviously treading water. Kudos to him for making a record Masters cut streak, whatever it is. And really playing solid all day long, and mostly even golf. And I know Max Homa kind of the same thing. And so, and actually, since you and I were talking pre-show, I think he might have dropped back a couple. Ludvig Oberg, my fellow Swede, although he's a literal Swede native. I've just got some heritage there. But he was the one, he was 4 under for a bit. Now I think he dropped a bogey, so he was 3 under for the day. So I think that's, unless I'm missing somebody else, about the most impressive showing that we've had all day long, just a 3 under, and anyone else lucky to be 1 under on the day. So I was telling you, I think this kind of sets up for how windy it is. It's supposed to be beautiful the next 2 days. Kind of sets up tomorrow to be a little sporadic, where you might have some who are taking advantage of the nice weather, a few guys who aren't adjusted to the different conditions. That I think you're going to have some really contrasting scores tomorrow, and it's going to set up for a hell of a moving day, and some guys that are in the mix now that might fall off a cliff. So tomorrow, I'm really excited for tomorrow. I think it's going to be really interesting at Augusta there.
Shout out to the GOAT, Tiger Woods. 24 straight cuts, the record. You could see him after he made, and you were right. He was like this, looking at the putt, the wind's pelting him, the sand from the bunkers pelting him. +1 for the tournament. I think the projected cut right now still at +4. You could see him walking to the clubhouse, and just the interview and how was today? Tired. It was long. And in other words, obviously he wants to win this tournament. We get that. This is the one tournament that each year he's geared to. But realistically, the goal to make the cut, and he did. And obviously everyone rooting for him, but you can just tell by the body. I'm not expecting a lot over the weekend. Just hoping there's no WD next to his name, and that he's able to finish the tournament with some pride.
100%. And I think, like you said, it's going to wear on you just about anyone with this type of win. So it is obviously tough for him. So I think, all things considered, I would hope he's in great shape going into the weekend. And obviously today, I don't remember what he exactly played on top of the wind. He played an extra, whatever it was, 5-6 holes to start the day too. So a longer day today than your average day. So interested to see how it goes. I know Rory's still out there right now. I think he's close to making the turn. Kind of avoided the first day blues that he usually has, but and then instead of being able to really build on that today with these conditions, he's 2 for the day, so 1 over in totality. So not out of it with the way that he's made some late surges in this tournament before. I know I've won whatever the 1 year, a couple years ago, I had him top 3 finish after the point he was at, and had a hell of a Sunday. So that's certainly set up there again. But obviously curious to see where the winners are. The guy right now that's getting himself in better standing is Schauffele. He's back to even for the tournament. So interested to see a guy like that. Kind of in the middle of the pack right now. Koepka's a couple more shots back, but any of these guys obviously need a huge day tomorrow, but none of these guys are quite out of it yet, especially when you consider the top guys haven't quite run away with this thing yet.
And it's so funny, when I was doing my homework this morning, I sent out to a few friends and colleagues the DraftKings numbers. A couple things stuck out to me, just my take on it. As we talked backstage, I did not have DeChambeau on any of my bingo cards. I'll be honest with you, I still wouldn't. No disrespect to anyone that does. God bless you. I'm not rooting against you. I believe in karma, but I just know the mentality and the makeup of him, and it's going to take one of those errant drives or something that he thinks he can do, and it just turns. Because there's scoring holes, and there's holes where you take your par with pride, and it just takes 1 or 2 of those hiccups. And so my point is, 2 things stood out to me this morning. Jeffrey Benson at the Circa, I love you to death with Matt over there and Derek Stevens. I thought there was a little extra meat on the bone, almost enticing you to take Scheffler at plus 165. Just looking at the board, and granted, not everyone finished the first round, and we're only 18 holes in, and especially knowing the weather today, I thought there was a lot of extra meat on that bone at plus 165, seeing you could have got him at 475 pre-flop. That was number one. Number two was Xander Schauffele, and I'm glad you're talking about him. The guy was 7 or 8 shots back, and DraftKings and Circa were only giving you plus 1,800 on this guy, okay? And he was plus 1,400 pre-flop, okay? So now they're giving him a 7 or 8 shot deficit, and he was only plus 1,800. Something smells to me, Riley.
Yeah, and his odds are I'm looking at 30-1 right now. So certainly still 7 shots back. And the later we get into this thing, so it's still not crazy right now, or it still is kind of crazy right now. Not crazy to say that he could make this up. So no, I mean, and the other guy that we were waiting to kind of all season long last year. I know he had some random tournaments that he ended up breaking out, and that's looking real good right now is Collin Morikawa. So I don't know. If he's in a new, kind of, refurbished form, then obviously he's a huge contender in this. If he's kind of reverting back to what we saw from him last year, then I expect him to fade a little bit. But, you look back at it, he had some better tournaments than I think we gave him credit for. He just really wasn't at a point where we expected him to be a no doubt top 3 to 5 golfer in the world. He didn't really capitalize on that last year. So curious to see where he goes the rest of it. And then Willie Z was another guy that I did have action on. He was in good standing, and now I think he's actually still pretty early in back 9, but he's bogeyed the last 2 to get back to even. So not what you want to see there. But Willie Z, Zalatoris, was looking decent for quite a bit. So I'm curious to see. Obviously, he needs to get going a little bit. Joaquin Niemann was one of the other guys that I had some action on. Another guy that's dropped a couple today. But aside from Scotty Scheffler, one of the 2-3 hottest golfers in the world. So not counting him out yet either, Joaquin Niemann there, as good as he's been playing the last handful of weeks, at least on the LIV Tour, to say the least.
ECSI VIPs, and obviously, Riley, you have work on Wednesday night. We sent Tuesday night, a two-unit play, which is the first time in our 9-year history. Scotty Scheffler plus 475. So if he does win, we'll net 950 there. We did have the one pre-flop first round leader we had on Scheffler plus 1,200. That was our only first round leader, and he comes up one short to Bryson. Some of the other players that we did, we have Morikawa at plus 5,000. And he was plus 5,200 at Circa, 5,000 at DraftKings. We had Aberg plus 3,000, plus 3,300 at Circa. We were on Niemann. He is, would we have Niemann at plus 3,000? Morikawa was one of our horses too. We had Morikawa at plus 5,000, 5,200. And we had a couple others as well, but my long shot of all long shots, and I'm going to tap myself on the shoulder here, Eric Cole, plus 25,000 on DraftKings, plus 30,500 at Circa. And Mr. Cole right now is sitting at plus 1. The last scratch that we had was Connors. He was at plus 100. Someone that needs to wake up, and he was not in form, Hovland. Plus 6 in the tournament, plus 2 after 8. I'm sorry, plus 6 for the tournament, plus 7 for the day. So Victor needs to make up 2 shots. And right now, Matsuyama, a lot of steam on him. He was as low as 1,800. Right now, even for the day, plus 4, right on the Mendoza line.
Yep, I am. I do a Masters pick 5 guys and your top 4 carry in. So I had him in one of my Masters pools this week. So I am watching him closely these next couple of hours. The one guy that you didn't mention that I wish I would have looked at a little closer, Sepp Straka is playing really well today. A guy who has kind of lurked in the weeds the last couple of years. And then the next thing you know, he's putting up some really, really nice numbers. And he's 2 under for the day, 1 under in total through 12. So Sepp Straka, another guy who's had some really, really good tournaments over the last couple of years that could make a push at this thing. Obviously, the rest of the day, today is important, but if he's still right around where he's at, he's going to be a player these next couple of days, in my opinion.
No doubt. And you and I probably, hopefully, most likely, God willing, will be back Sunday morning. We did a lot of Sunday golf shows, and we do it very strategically. The Masters might be different. This is the one tournament that, again, there are holes that you can score on, and then there are holes where you take your par with pride. And the Rory, let me circle back to Rory. Rory, especially at Augusta, you never get him on that front runner most, because there's always that one bad round, that one bad back nine. But the I think it was 2 years ago, the shot like 63 on Sunday, because again, he was so far back, he's just going for the flag sticks, which theoretically, if you're near the top, you're not doing. And he had one of those rounds, and I think it was on 18 that Morikawa birdied, and then he chipped in from the bunker for the birdie, or vice versa there. So it will be interesting once the dust settles, no pun intended there, where the cut is. Is it at 4? And we know it's very simple. You got to make the cut and make the dance. And once you make the cut, it's moving day on Saturday. So you strategically get yourself up, obviously, for the Sunday sweat. So we're hoping for a lot of bullets in our chamber getting to Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, and it feels good right now that nobody's really running away from this. Obviously, Scotty, where he's at, could absolutely put up 64 tomorrow, 65, and he's the runaway favorite into Sunday. But but in the case that you did with Rory, I remember you and I talking. That was one of the of all the golf tournaments Iowa we have ever done. I think that was the most profitable tournament I've ever had that I didn't pick the winner, because I did kind of do the take the top off with I can't remember even who won that damn tournament now off the top of my head, but because I think the top 2 guys were pretty far ahead of everyone else. But take the top off, and I had some big numbers on Rory top 3, and that was a great example of, even if you've got someone that's 7 shots ahead, you might not be able to pick a winner out of that, 10, 11 shots back or anything like that, but you might be able to find some good top 3 situations where, there's guys that are 4 or 5 shots back of just being top 3, and they make a huge run. It can be, 10-1, 20-1 type situations there. So one way or another, we're going to find some good action on Sunday.
Yeah, and what Riley's trying to explain for the new people here, the hardest part in golf is this: as you wake up Sunday morning and you see Scotty Scheffler minus 12, and the next closest guy is minus 7. Okay, so he's got a 5-shot lead on first and second, and then you take the minus 7 and you go down to Rory McIlroy, who is minus 2 or minus 3. Well, he's 9 shots off the lead. There's no way he's going to win this. Well, that's where our eyes go, because you got to have Scheffler come back to the pack. Okay, so the 12 comes back to the 7s, and then the 3 comes up to the 7. And again, Masters and Scotty Scheffler. Okay, so it's a bad example there, okay? But usually this is what we do on Sundays on the tournaments. The Masters is a whole different ball of wax here, and Scotty Scheffler is also a whole different ball of wax here.
Right. Scotty is a different example these last couple of years. But, for example, if Homa, who I think is fantastic, or a Højgaard is 4 or 5 shots ahead on Sunday, that would be a prime example of someone that could absolutely fall back to the pack, and whoever is behind him, even 5th, 6th place, as opposed to whoever's right behind him, could come up and bite him. We had the one year, I think it was that year with that we were talking about with Rory. That wasn't one that we had. I can't remember who won that tournament, but we had a lot of good situations like that, long shots that we had on the nose a few times. So. Excited to get that back. Obviously, this year with golf, the last couple of years and going forward, hopefully it gets resolved soon. Has been very bizarre, and there's been a lot of people that the average person has no idea who are in the, subtract the Masters and some of these other ones. But a lot of no names that obviously have swayed some the average fan away from watching it in the first place. But go ahead.
Matsuyama was who won that tournament.
Yep, that's right.
That's why I was doing this. I
forget it because, like I said, that was one of my more profitable days where I didn't pick the actual winner. So I felt like obviously a huge winner, and I didn't care who won. But you're right. And Matsuyama, yep, he was great that weekend. That's right.
Because the year Scheffler won it, of course, is I had Cam Smith, and he was 3 back to start, and he finally tied it on the 7th or 8th hole, and they both hit a bad second shot, and they're both by the right side of the bunker. They both did a bad third shot. I'm like, Jesus. And next thing you know, Scotty puts it 2 feet across, and Smith doinks another one. So Scotty got his 2 shots back, and the rest was history there. But again, we'll be doing a lot of Masters talk over the weekend, and me and Riley will be back here Sunday morning to get onto that. Before we get into tonight's madness on the schedule, we haven't had a lot of you and I talk here. The draft, less than 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from yesterday, the first round would be completed. We'd be getting ready for the second and third round today. Give us some Green Bay talk.
Yeah, so as far as just brief thoughts, I mean, they've got some decent picks in the top 50, 60 picks or so, 25 in the first round, number 25 in the first round, obviously. And really anything except for quarterback and tight end and probably running back at that spot is kind of on the table. So you've got, if there's an offensive lineman that, probably was projected top 20 that slips down there, that's probably someone that they would take, or really I don't want to say anything on defense because there's a few spots that might be a little higher priority. I know the fan, one of the biggest fan wants has been Cooper DeJean out of Iowa, but his stock has been kind of rising a little bit, so I'm not sure if he'll be available or not there. On top of, obviously, Big Ten country and a guy who was really successful at Iowa. A need at this point at cornerback to try and – they've been great, the Packers, at finding depth at cornerback, and you hope that Jair Alexander is actually going to play an entire season and be the guy that he's paid to be. But it would be fantastic if that is the case, that we can get an actual solid complement to him. Because, like I said, I've been really pleased with Gutekunst in the way that they've been able to find kind of diamonds in the rough to kind of put Band-Aids on their secondary these last few years. But if we could actually get some – turn it into a potential strength here, that would be a huge, huge bonus here. And, there's a lot of optimism with Joe Barry gone. That was one of the biggest issues that any Packers fan would have had over the last 2-3 seasons as far as the Packers defense is concerned. Believing in the Packers defense that on paper they've got a lot of good players. And so now hoping that that defense can take another step up here with obviously an offense that's trying to surge a little bit here, a young offense there. So a lot of optimism. I think a lot of people are not pumping the brakes because they don't believe necessarily, but trying to temper expectations where a lot of people in media are starting to build the Packers up quite a bit because of the playoff run that they had. Still a lot of work to be done to be that type of consistent team that some people are expecting the Packers to be there. So I am very hopeful. And from a draft standpoint, like I said, Cooper DeJean and a few of these offensive linemen have been the fan favorites for that draft pick there. But, I think it's for a long time, at least in my lifetime, they were always a team that would take the best available. And, again, as long as that's not, I saw one mock draft that had them taking, a tight end in the first round, which they have 2 very good rookie tight ends on their roster right now, plus some depth. So I think tight end and quarterback in the first round are things you can obviously cross off, and then running back would be surprising to me as well. And probably wide receiver. I think they obviously have always had success finding some second, third round, fourth round type receivers. So I think they could maybe throw a piece in there and if they like someone. But offensive line or really anything on defense, best available between those would probably what the Packers end up doing there if they stay at that 25, obviously.
And I think they're in a great spot in this regards. We saw the emergence of Jordan Love to end the season. We saw them go into Dallas and just light them up. My thought process on the wide receivers. Again, I got taken to the woodshed. I will not be back there, but I like the rest of the youth. I thought for sure the light was right there, and he just can't stay healthy. And so he has left the building in my eyes. My question is, surprised what they have done in the offseason with Aaron Jones and your running back situation now?
I think had the Josh Jacobs situation not come about, I think they probably would have ponied up some more money than what they ended up putting out that they were offering Aaron Jones. I don't know that they realized how realistic that was going into the offseason. So I as much as I think Aaron Jones, when he's very healthy, is awesome and still a potentially top 5 running back, Josh Jacobs, 2 years ago ran for 1,600 yards. So I am excited, and I think, you kind of reset the clock, running back clock, so to speak. You get someone who's 3-4 years younger. So I'm good with it for the most part. They've made some additions to the depth of the team here and there. So I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, kind of buying into the youth that they have and hoping that they progress. And obviously, the other biggest thing that I think most Packers fans are optimistic for is that their defense might actually be good now with a different change of leadership there, with who we brought in there out of Boston College. So because on paper a lot of people believe in this defense. So there's still some holes, and it's a really important draft. Obviously, you can't expect all these top 3 draft picks that they take to be instant starters or anything like that. I had hopes that they would maybe do a little bit more free agency wise to bolster their offensive line a little bit, but again, they've never really struggled to find offensive linemen in the draft. So I am fairly optimistic there. So, no, I'm pretty pleased for the most part. And as far as the receiving corps is concerned, it sounds like Christian Watson, of course, you can I'm sure their camp is going to say it. It sounds like they have found whatever hamstring. They have a solution in place for whatever his hamstring issues with. So according to their camp, that's not going to be a lingering issue anymore. But obviously, you know what that's worth. So that'll be, I think, within the first 5 to 6 weeks, you'll know whether or not that's going to be a lingering issue again or not. Obviously, if he's got hamstring issues, then I think you can write that off as what's going to be the case. But obviously, a big year for him. And like I said, I do think they'll probably try and find some receiving help in the draft potentially, and maybe there's a draft day trade that they can work around or something like that. But, Romeo Doubs has been great in the goal line, but outside of that, another possession receiver would be fantastic there for the majority of the field there. So I think they're going to do a lot of work with these tight ends that they have in the future and kind of build their offense, not around the tight ends necessarily, but, if we've got 2 young tight ends that we really believe in, I think they're going to put them both on the field at the same time a lot more than they had this past season, and they weren't technically healthy a lot of the season together at the same time, Kraft and Musgraves there. So, optimistic, and then obviously the rest of the division is going to be interesting. You obviously got the Lions, who don't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon, and another good draft would obviously be huge for them. And then you got potentially the Bears, the Bears picking up Caleb Williams and potentially some other some other talent, and they're obviously going to be a little bit. I'm not too concerned about them, challenging the Lions or the Packers, whoever it be, for the division this year necessarily. But obviously, a fantastic situation for Caleb Williams to step into with the way the defense progressed there, and you bring in Keenan Allen, and you got DJ Moore, who's a stud. So, and then you and I were talking, obviously, and could involve your neck of the woods a little so than mine. But whether or not Minnesota is going to get aggressive, or, if they don't kind of, I don't want to say punt on the season necessarily, but, kind of be the clear, not a contender if they don't do anything aggressive here in this draft here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that was setting up my next spot. Was the fact is you got the Bears with Caleb, so you got a rookie quarterback. Potentially you have Minnesota with Sam Darnold, or my next lead-in will be the Patriots. Are they going to make a move and move up and get a J.J. McCarthy or a Drake May? And then you're sitting there with Jordan Love. And then, of course, the Lions, who had a dream season, maybe there could be some regression, or maybe they stand pat and they take that next leap, because I think the NFC's wide open. The 49ers might have peaked and now start to take that step back. Interesting. I think you're going to get the first half Philadelphia Eagles versus the second half Philadelphia Eagles. I think Dallas has peaked. They're in, cap hell right now. Yeah. They're putting out there Micah Parsons is the problem. Already CeeDee Lamb says he's not going to OTAs. He wants a contract. And they know right now Dallas is stuck with Dak. If you give him the extension, you're screwed. And if you don't pay him, well, do you move on? I mean, they've won 12 games with 3 years in a row. So I think you're sitting in the catbird seat as one of the teams to look at in the NFC, which will segue now to the Patriots. What can I tell you guys? What am I hearing? What do I know? It's been nothing but smokescreen. Initially, the 3 spot 6-8 weeks ago is where you wanted to be because Jaden Daniels was going to be there. Well, everything I'm hearing, Jaden Daniels is going 2 to Washington. Now you're sitting at 3 with sloppy thirds there, meaning Drake May slid to you, or you're buying the bullshit of JJ McCarthy. And here's what I'm telling you. There are some people out there that think that Jim Harbaugh held back JJ McCarthy. That he is that guy. We've seen Caleb throw for 500 yards. We've seen him throw for 5 touchdowns. We've seen Jaden Daniels throw for 400 plus yards and 4 and 5 touchdowns. We've never seen that from JJ McCarthy. But there's people there that are blowing smoke up our asses that saying he can do that. Well, not on my dime, thank you. And from New England, Mr. Sixth Rounder Tom Brady, it just smells like, are you kidding me? We're going back down that rabbit hole. So here's my thought. If Minnesota wants Drake May or they want JJ McCarthy, and they're going to offer the Patriots 3 first-round draft picks, which is the 11th this year, the 23rd this year, and next year's first, and if you want to throw in a second and third, he's yours. You can take McCarthy or May. Patriots do what they do best, trade back. They got more holes than a slice of Swiss cheese right now. It's going to take a couple years. So that's your Patriot minute there. And then, again, I can't see Minnesota punting and saying, Sam Darnold, you're our guy, especially where they have to decide, are they paying Justin Jefferson or not? And I'll tell you what. Randy Moss left the building. Stephon Diggs left the building. You were right on both of them because Diggs already left the Buffalo building. Very simple process here. Pick up the phone, call the Kansas City Chiefs because they've missed on Sky Moore, Scantlin. The list is endless. Kels is another year older. I haven't even said the Swifties yet. Your star wide receiver, Rashee Rice, is looking at 6 counts in Texas now, driving a $119 and leaving the scene. Just make the deal. Call up the Chiefs, say, hey, we got Justin Jefferson, you got Mahomes. Let's make a deal, and everyone will be happy.
I think someone is going to make an offer that they can't refuse at some point. And obviously the Chiefs could be that team. There could be some other teams that get gross with it and offer some absurd price for it because he's obviously a stud and he's obviously still younger than the Packers got a nice deal for Devontae Adams, but he's obviously not washed up by any means. He's still a stud, but past the peak of his career. So you could argue that Justin Jefferson's still got a little bit of a peak coming up here. So I could see somebody ponying up for it. And if you're the Vikings, unless you land a quarterback that's an absolute stud, you kind of got a team that's set up to be in that middle of the pack unless you do something drastic. So I could see them doing a lot of different things, and again, whether that's getting aggressive and getting that quarterback or, like you said, Justin Jefferson, getting a deal for him. I absolutely think that they can't just stand pat, like you said, whether it's punt or stand pat, however you want to put it. I don't think they can because then you're really looking at some mediocre years coming up here and wasting away that opportunity to pay Justin Jefferson apples to oranges. But, look what Carolina just got for Brian Burns that they, as opposed to what they could have got a year and a half ago for him. Apples to oranges, defense, wide receiver. But, the point kind of stands there where if someone's offering you a king's ransom for a wide receiver, wide receivers are important, but at the end of the day, if someone's offering you a king's ransom and you can fill in 3-4 positions as opposed to, having that stud receiver, something you absolutely need to consider, and there's plenty of proof these last few years that obviously receivers matter, but there's plenty of proof to suggest that a star receiver doesn't necessarily get you the rings that you want. There's a couple obviously that say you would disagree, but obviously the Chiefs move on from Tyreek Hill and get 2 rings out of it. So maybe that's a special case, but there are plenty of other options. And while we're on that topic, people writing the Bills off because they obviously they need to do something as far as the receiving core is concerned, but just because Stephon Diggs is leaving the building doesn't mean I'm writing off the Buffalo Bills as a team to be, still at least a playoff team. Whether or not they're sealing a Super Bowl or not, I don't know. But saw way too many people writing off the Bills instantly when they got rid of Stephon Diggs a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and I will say this back on the Justin Jefferson train. I have heard this, and I am smiling because I think it would be kind of crazy, but it would be special, is reuniting Joe Burrow with Justin Jefferson on the right side and Jamar Chase on the left, two LSU guys, and a healthy Mr. Burrow with those two weapons. Again, as much as I would like to see, Mahomes to Jefferson, I think that'd be fun. But Jesus, can you imagine for fantasy purposes, Burrow to Chase and Jefferson? This would be back in LSU time.
Yeah, and obviously people would say, well, why wouldn't they just pay up T. Higgins? Because T. Higgins isn't Justin Jefferson, and he isn't worth a $25-30 million a year contract. If you got those two guys who are bona fide top 5 receivers on the same roster with the youth that they have, I would sign up for that, and that's a different case where I'd buy into having those two receivers because the sky's the limit for that offense. Probably would limit them to what they could do defensively, cap wise at that point, but the cap's going up obviously, so. That would be fun to watch, and that would be on my wish list of if anyone's trading for him. I would put that over as awesome a combination for how years it would be for Mahomes and Justin Jefferson. The tandem of Chase and Justin Jefferson. I'll put that on number 1 on my wish list if they trade him away. And obviously, I want them to trade Justin Jefferson out of the NFC North. That's a Packers fan here.
And obviously you got to disgruntle T. Higgins, and it was kind of comical because as soon as they put the franchise tag on him, I reached out to a few colleagues. I'm like, you watch, it's going to take less than a week, 10 days. He's not going to want it. And sure enough, he doesn't. So again, I don't know what the price tag for Justin Jefferson is, but again, Cincinnati can offer them T. Higgins and, whatever else the draft picks are. So just keep your eyes and ears on that as well. Baseball. What I'm going to do to everyone watching and listening is standing room only. If you're new to our channel, you're new to the Closing Bell, you're new to me and Riley, jump on over to YouTube, East Coast Sports Investors. Subscribe. It's free. Tell a friend, tell a neighbor. Turn on your notifications so you never miss a Closing Bell with me and Riley, or Riley solo, or me solo. We do, 1 to 3 live shows a day, the Breakfast Bankroll, the Midday Market Report, and of course here, the Closing Bell. I'm going to go run right through the hockey right now. I'm going to do some quick team totals here for you guys in hockey. Short slate here. Carolina Panthers at St. Louis. You can get their team total over 3.5 at even money. I would take a swing there. Not to throw this at you, Riley. The Nashville Predators are in Chicago against Connor Bedard. You can get the Preds team total over 3.5, minus 15 cents. Can't go there. This team's been a Jekyll and Hyde for me. I'll throw it out here to the public. The Vegas Golden Knights, 10:07 start against the Wild. Team total over 3.5. You can get that plus 15 cents. And if you really got some big kahunas, this is the cherry on top. This is the swing of the night. Calgary Flames at the Ducks. You can get the Calgary Flames team total over 3.5 at plus 20 cents. The board is yours, my brother.
So switch over to the NBA. You and I were talking. There's a lot of games that just flat out are meaningless. My Bulls, for example, cannot change their status. They're playing the Wizards, who I believe are locked into their tanking position there as the second worst team in the league. So that one's a meaningless one. There are a couple games that actually the race to get into that 6 seed, top 6 in the Eastern Conference is still very, very prevalent here with a couple of games left. Orlando and Indy, for example, tied 5 and 6. Philly right behind them. Philly and Orlando tonight. So Philly's got a chance with the way they're playing with Embiid. If they were to win to even the score here with Orlando and Indiana. Indiana plays Cleveland, who's 1 game ahead of Indiana. So one way or another, there's going to be some interesting movement here in this top 6 seed for the Eastern Conference there. So that Orlando and Philly game is really important. Same thing with Cleveland and Indiana to avoid being in that play-in game where you'd potentially have the Heat, Bulls, Hawks there, who in a one-game setting obviously could be a little dangerous. So you obviously want to avoid that. If it's the Sixers in that play-in game, the way they're playing right now, I mean, the line tonight against a solid Orlando team who last week or so has not been great. 7.5, I think, at home for Philly with the way Embiid is playing. So feel good that if Philly can get a win tonight. The number that was interesting to me on a Friday night here with the way the Sixers are scored right now, The game total 213.5. Last 2 days for the Sixers go over 226, 220.5, and now we're sitting at 213.5, which is fairly close to where the Orlando Magic live around right now. But I'm going to go to the under in Orlando and Philly in a game that is one of the more important games of the night, my friend.
No, and I was just, my eyes flocked right to that when you were breaking it down. I would definitely even take the Orlando Magic team total under the 103. As we were here, I wanted to circle back, obviously, to a question I had to you about your Bulls. Scheffler, DeChambeau once 3-shot lead, now tied. Both DeChambeau and Scheffler now at -3. Homer is in the clubhouse at 6. Hogart, Willett at -4, Davis, Morikawa at -3, Aberg and Fitzpatrick at 2. But my question is UConn wins a national title. Kentucky's still looking for a coach. That was a breach, meaning Kentucky was going to be forced to pay this guy $31 million. Neither one of them wanted to be there. Arkansas steps up. They take care of that. So Kentucky's got a free $31 million here. And, of course, the talk of the town was, well, they're going to go offer the world to Danny Hurley. And Hurley, someone asked me, they called me right away, Jeff, what do you think? I was like, there's no way in hell. His dad's from New Jersey. He's built an empire. He has a chance to three-peat now, something that no one's done since UCLA. But what if money talks? So Kentucky's sitting there with a free $31 million. The highest paid coach, if I am correct, is Bill Self at around $12 million a year, give or take a few dollars. So I said to myself, okay, if Kentucky backs the wheelbarrow up and goes, hey, Hurley, I'll give you 5 for 75, $15 million per, which sounds like a lot. But if you add that $31 million, which is free money now, they're only paying them really like $9 million a year because they had that free 31. But I said, you pick up the phone, you call Billy D. Billy won back-to-back with Florida, the last one to do it, Till Hurley. What was the talk there? Was there any chance, or aren't these guys going to separate? Aren't you going to move on? Or is it in Billy you still believe? What's going on with Billy and the Bulls?
It seems like the front office is in Billy, we believe, to some degree, because I think you and I have had this conversation. The fan base is very indifferent on Billy Donovan. He obviously had a little success when we made some roster changes, and then since then we've been pretty aggressively 500 and aggressively mediocre. And I've told you, obviously, there's some holes now where you lose the money that you're throwing away to Lonzo Ball. They get a little bit of it back, but can't really replace that. And not to say that they'd be a top 3 team perennially with Lonzo Ball. I'm not suggesting that, but they would have been obviously an above 500. I shouldn't say obviously, but probably an above 500 team if Lonzo Ball had stayed healthy. So. The front office remains committed to Billy Donovan is really the best thing I can tell you. And from his standpoint, had he felt like maybe the ship was sinking, then maybe he would have taken a jump. I think as the case goes, football coaches, I think even more so than basketball coaches, but I think it remains semi-similar. I think there's a lot of people, especially who hasn't been in that world for a handful of years, doesn't want to deal with the new world the way it's going and the NIL and the player movement that's so freely moving right now. I think he's content with where he's at, and whether or not he feels like he has unfinished business, I guess I don't know. But like I told you, the fan base is so indifferent. There wasn't much talk from a fan base standpoint. There was speculation that he could be going. That speculation was there, but for a team that there's players that this fan base likes. It's just not a team that the fan base believes in. And so there's really not a ton of talk on a daily basis. The talk shows aren't blown up about topics like this because, there's people that will watch on a daily basis. But at the end of the day, it's not a team that, we're obviously going to be in the play-in tournament. The people will watch for the play-in tournament and if they make the playoffs. But, it's not anything where, the fan base is getting, their popcorn ready on any of these potential play-in games or playoff nights, willing this team to make a deep playoff run because – the blueprint has just not been there, and this team has shown who they are, time and time again these last couple of seasons. And so, I think the more speculation is on how do we change this roster up a little bit and make some different ways because, I think Billy Donovan is a good baseline where is there a level that we would like to get to where our coach, we believe in our coach, and he's part of the reason why we're, a successful team? Absolutely. But I think there's also that sense of, if we move on from Billy Donovan, we saw what we had the previous two coaching regimes before him, and it wasn't pretty with Fred Hoiberg and, a brief stint with an embarrassment of Jim Boylan. So I think we're content with having a steady face of, the coaching situation there in Chicago. And at the end of the day, in the offseason, it won't be so much the coaching situation. It'll be, how do we shake up this roster to either go into a different direction and be at the bottom and be tanking again, or obviously get aggressive and make some type of big move that I personally, I don't think is there. But at the end of the day, if we go into the season and you've got Levine, Vooch, DeRozan, some combination of that again next year, and Lonzo Ball's not back, there's not going to be a lot of hope coming into next season for this Bulls team. And the fan base is, I'm not saying it's checked out, but there's not a lot of passion right now in Chicago for this Bulls team, because I think people feel a little hopeless that this team, you just can't really get, whether it's moving up or moving down. There's not a lot of answers to how you turn this team into a true contender in the fastest amount of time possible here.
And the funny thing is, going back again, the ball just hasn't been healthy. Obviously, you had Levine on the block, and next thing you know, he taps out. I'm going to get the surgery. So, in other words, you can't move him. This would have been a perfect opportunity to part ways with Billy. Billy goes to Kentucky. You're spot on, by the way. I've always said, why not build the legacy? Be a Coach K. Be a Roy Williams, some of these legends, Dean Smith. I'm going way back, of course. But my point is, now with the NIL, now with the transfer portal, I mean, look at Saban. He's like, guys, I'm gone. And it's hard to put up with this bullshit. And Billy, I was one of the guys fighting for the kids, the coaches, to stay in school. He won the back-to-backs, but the ego steps in. Hey, if I can do it in college, I can do it in the pros. And it doesn't work that way. These guys, once they get to the pros, they got their sneaker deal, their music deal, which movie am I going to be in? And of course, what's my 2K rating? And they're just wired and bred differently. So I wanted to get it from you, and I'm glad you said it that way there, because it is hard. Because the East is the Celtics, and it was supposed to be the Celtics and Giannis, and then there's Embiid, and then, of course, we know we have playoff Miami with Butler and that cast. Yep. But you got Giannis hurt with Doc Rivers coaching. They've been ugly. Embiid just getting back. So it looks like the Celtics and a big drop-off. But if you brought that whole cast back with Billy D, everyone's healthy, I think you would be optimistic, Riley.
And part of me saying there's not a lot of optimism is because the continued lack of news and optimism surrounding Lonzo Ball, and then no one is optimistic that he's coming back anytime soon, and certainly not at a very healthy point. If you're telling me you've got a 100% healthy Lonzo Ball going into next year, then I'm going to be a little optimistic, yeah, but there's just been no point where anyone feels comfortable, believing in that. We were strung along for a while where, a year and a half ago, we were told that it wouldn't be that long. I can't even remember if it was the beginning of this season or not, where it's like, oh, we're actually pretty close to figuring this out. And then obviously, he's out another season. So, yeah, you're right. If we can put everything together and get everyone healthy, then, there's something to be said there. But at the end of the day, I do credit to Billy Donovan. I think he's been decent at managing egos for a team that's been, teetering on 500 for two and I don't even know how long now, 2.5 years or so. There hasn't been a lot of chatter as far as the locker room, hating, egos, hating each other, this type of thing, and the scores that they have, kind of pissing and moaning, for lack of a term. Obviously, Zach LaVine is an interesting case himself, but there hasn't been that type of locker room turmoil that's coming out. So, that is where I would give credit to Billy Donovan, to where I think he is a decent manager of egos in the NBA. And so if that's why he's making his money as a mainstay and the office believes in him, then so be it. And obviously the biggest thing that I could say is with Kobe White's ascendance this year, that is given some optimism there. But you still really need, at the end of the day, you either need a nice free agent pickup that can move this team and improve this team, or hit on a draft pick or something like that, or obviously Lonzo Ball coming back fully healthy. So until one of those things happens, the fan base is going to believe in mediocrity until anything else happens, my friend.
And it's kind of funny. I did a show 2 weeks ago with Travis Geiger from Wager Wire, and they cut up some clips. I was giving out Dallas as they were ascending. I think you could have got them to win the West as high as 13-1. Some crazy numbers. And their last 18 games, 16-2 and like 15-3 against the spread. And the one downside, obviously, is they're going to match up with the Clippers in the first round of the playoffs. Now, which Clippers team shows up? The one that wants to play, the one that's engaged, or, does this Dallas team keep it rolling? I mean, there's been some playoff runs by the Dallases, the Dirk Nowitzkis of the world that have shocked the world. Now, do I expect them to beat Denver? Probably not, but I could see the way Kyrie and Luka playing the way they are right now, and they're actually playing defense, which would really make it a little scary in the wild, wild west right now, Riley.
100%. And I wish those two weren't kind of on a collision. And it seems almost, I don't know if there's any tiebreaker that could happen to where Dallas moves back. I don't think so. Because I think it's certain that they are playing in the first round there. So I wish, because those are the two dark horses, I would say, that, people are really believing a team that could upset one of the higher seeds. So I wish they weren't playing each other, but that series is going to be a heck of a series. You obviously have with the Clippers themselves too. Has Kawhi have a chance to go to another level like we've seen it in the past go in the playoffs? So that's going to be an interesting one for sure. And obviously, in contrast to the East, you've got the Lakers are the 10th seed there and might not even be in the dance once we get there, but they're 45-35. So the depth in the West is certainly a lot better than the East, where the 10th seed, the Bulls and Hawks are under 500 there, the 9 and 10 seeds there. So I'm interested to see how that shakes out. The 8, 9, and 10, they're all tied right now. So could be a little shake up there in the 7th and 8th seed there. But the way Denver's playing right now, it's easy to think that they could obviously make another run at this thing. But I think you and I talked earlier in the season. Don't count out OKC. They're a team that's got a ton of depth and a ton of youth. I think the one thing that really hurts them is just lack of experience. And so we've seen in the past where that doesn't matter, and obviously times where it does matter. So they're going to have their own tough battle, whether that's against the Pelicans or the Suns or whoever it is. They'll have their own tough battle and might not even make it out of the first round. But they are another team that is a dark horse that could make a deep run at this thing for sure here. So the West is going to be a gauntlet, and I'm excited for that one even more so than the East there.
Oh, the board's still yours if you see anything else in there you'd like to talk about before we go to baseball.
Let's see. I mentioned Magic and Sixers is a important game. Pacers and Cavs also for that East race there. Cavs 3-point favorites at home against the Pacers. 232.5 on the game total in that one. So a little different than what we had in the Sixers Magic game there. But the Cavs as a 3-point favorite at home. I was a little interested in me. I was expecting them to be a little bit bigger favorite at home if I was feeling great in them. So I might be a little interested in Indiana. Their offense is kind of picking back up. They've had ebbs and flows to their season, Indiana here. But I could see them having a big offensive night here tonight on their behalf. So I might be interested in the Pacers winning this game, and also, points wise, I'm a little torn on totals in this one. But I could see the Pacers putting up a good fight tonight and potentially winning this game, and if not, a close one where they potentially even lose by 1 or 2 and cover this thing.
No, I like where your eyes are there. I can see if you shopped around, you could get their team total over 114.5 at minus 15 cents there. So if you like Indiana today, plus the 3.5, and you want to add a little pizza and beer, you can get their team total over 114.5 right now at the Heritage.
Yep, and the other one to mention, the way the Warriors are playing, they're at home tonight. Only 4-point favorites. They've been very, very hot as of late. Pelicans, they have won their last 3, but before that, a little rocky. Another one, like I said, Pelicans, 48-32. They are only 1 game ahead of the Suns, so they still got a little work to do to lock up that top 6. If they lose this game, and the Suns are playing Sacramento. So a chance for some interesting situation there if the Pelicans lose. So they should have some sense of urgency there. Same with Golden State, obviously, if they want to get obviously improve their chances of maybe being in that 7-8 game as opposed to the 9-10 there. However, it's another Warriors one where it's a Friday night and the Warriors at home and playing really well. I would have respected it a little bit more if it was 5.5, my friend. So I've been a big backer of the Pelicans these last couple of years. So that was one team that I've been maybe a little biased on at times. But just to say the least, I would have respected a bigger number from the Warriors at home on a Friday night here with the way they're playing.
The true number opening for the team totals, I had Golden State at 112. I had New Orleans at 108. And you know how it is on a Friday night and the inflation. The Golden State as high as 113. I do see some 109s for New Orleans. And at DraftKings right now, the New Orleans team total is 109.5. So if you like Golden State tonight, you're a little lenient and nervous about the spread, I would be looking at the New Orleans Pelicans team total under 109.5.
Yeah, and I didn't even touch on the totals. So I appreciate you bringing that up because that is definitely at play as well there. So, no, it's an interesting one. That one and motivate. I mean, the Warriors might decide, or either of those teams might decide. They're happy with their standing. Maybe not the Pelicans; they need the 6 seed. But the Warriors could decide. The difference between the 9-10. The 8-9. We'll take our 9-10 home court advantage and then work on the next game after that. So. Curious to see where the motivations lie in that one. But aside from that, a lot of double-digit spreads where you got some teams that are playing some obviously bad teams that have phoned it in, and then some teams that are good teams that obviously don't have much to play for. So outside of those 2-3 games, nothing really for me to make a note of. I mean, you've got the Bucks without the Bucks without Giannis as 14-point dogs. Sitting a lot of guys I know. So some tough sledding and tough watches in the NBA tonight. So you got to obviously hone it in on the 2 or 3 games that do matter and make sure you know where the motivations lie tonight in the NBA.
Yeah, and senior lucky if you're watching, listening on the treadmill or at a water polo match for your son. Happy Friday, happy hour here back east at 523. He's been trying to sled of late in the NBA. He's been doing a fabulous job. One of our lead good friends that's always supporting the ECSI crew. So thank you and shout out to Mr. Lucky there. Turn over to the diamond, like I said, almost 58 minutes ago. Yankees Cleveland, the only game postponed. There is some, wet weather in the Cleveland, New York, Boston area. It is not raining here on Cape Cod right now. I assume the Red Sox will get the game in, but it's Friday night. Big slate in the bases. Is there anything in particular that you're looking at that you see? I do have my eyes right in your home park, and I will get to that when you get to it.
So we can bounce around. It's one of the. I guess there's a handful of games before that one, but it's a windy day in Chicago. I will say that to start things off. I will say a lot of wind going on in the South Side. Outside of that, though, one team that I'm expecting to start putting up some runs here. I wasn't as high on them as some people were coming into the season, but I'm higher on them to what they've shown so far. Is Minnesota. 4-6. They are tied with my White Sox actually for the least amount of runs produced. They are 4-6 though in there, but however they've been top 4 or 5 runs allowed. They got Lopez on the mound tonight. Short dogs, but you've got a Tigers team that a lot of people around the country are kind of perking their ears up a bit on that team. So at the very least, I'm interested in Minnesota to start to turn around and put some runs on the board. Maybe put up a few tonight. Tariq Skubal. A solid pitcher for Detroit there. Pitching staff has been solid. But I at least give me your thoughts on Minnesota. Do you think, at least in tonight's case or going forward, do we see a little bit of an offensive resurgence coming along the line for Minnesota here?
Yes, and it's probably one of the best, if not the best, pitching matchups tonight. Lopez versus Skubal. I got a flat 7 here at Bookmaker. team totals are kind of comical too. Detroit 3.5 -110 either which way. And right now, Minnesota 3.5. You can get juiced under -120 at Bet Online or at Heritage 310. And I think the thought process for most people, because Scooble we have is one of the potential Cy Youngs in the American League. At home, 640 start. I think people will take the Minnesota side and take the team total under the 3.5. So I think your eyes are in the right spot there, where again you could try to sneak a Twinkie side here with a little short price and a dog price. And I think the first one to 4 does win this. And I think most would flock to the Tigers here. But I think your eyes are in the right spot with the Twins tonight.
And another thing to note, I said it's windy in Chicago. It's windy in a lot of places here in the MLB. Obviously, some will be blown out, some will be blown in. I believe this one might be one of the ones that could be blown out. Don't want to say that with absolute certainty. I'm not a meteorologist, obviously. I'll give my home run prop out of this game, though, my friend. Give me Byron Buxton, 2 for 6 lifetime off of Scooble with 2 bombs. I'll go right around 4-1 for Byron Buxton bomb in Detroit tonight for the Twinkies.
I like that. I like where your eyes are there. I will second that one for you. How's that?
All right, that sounds good to me. Let's see where else. I don't know about your thoughts with this one. There's obviously some fairly young pitchers, maybe not in this case, but you got a 9-4 Pirates team that's certainly overachieved to this point, and you've got a 7-6 Phillies team. Are people going to be buying the sizzle with the Pirates here, or are we still believing in the Phillies as the on paper better team in this one? Do you think this line is fair, or is this with a 9-4 Pirates team maybe a little too good to be true for the Pirates at some big plus money here tonight?
No, I think don't forget, it's Fade the Public Friday. And again, I think all eyes will flock on the Phillies. It's kind of comical. As we were speaking about that game, at Bet Online, the Pirates team total 4.5 juiced under -140. Heritage has now moved it to 3.5 juiced over -140. And your Phillies is 4.5 juiced over -140. So my point here very simply is I'll go on record that says that the Pirates end up on 3 tonight. And I will say that the Phillies get to 4 or 5. So if you want to bet the Phillies, even though I'm not a home team run line guy, I would say take the Phillies minus the 1.5 if you wanted to dabble on the Phillies tonight.
Yeah, I can get behind that one as well. The other one, another team just in the NL Central as a whole that's played really well. The Brewers 8-3. They've been putting up a boatload of runs. Kind of the opposite situation with the Twins there, where you have to assume that they're going to come to earth at some point with their offense. They are road favorites in Baltimore tonight. Do have an advantage on paper with the pitching matchup, I believe, there. Were you surprised to see the Brewers coming in as road favorites in this one, or do you think that's fair with these? Is that telling of what this pitching match could be here?
I think it's the perfect storm where the Red Sox puked all over themselves, and you need some luck in sports wagering. You do. Okay, so if you were blessed and had the Orioles team total last night and you get to extras and they put up a touchdown, God bless you. Just remember that when you're sitting there crying because you left 9 on base and you left the bases loaded and you didn't score with no outs, and you had second and third and no outs, didn't score. So remember the good with the bad, people. So again, Vegas is telling you, hey, listen, the Orioles never die. We talked about that, Riley, last year. We talked about it the year before as they were developing this team. Now it's Friday night. They come home and the whole world is going to be like, Orioles? Home dogs? Are you kidding me? So just buyer beware. Again, hats off to you, Riley. I think your eyes are spot on here. I'd lean the Brewers side, number 1. Number 2, I'll add the cherry on top there. You can get the Brewers team total over 4.5, and you can get that plus 105. So again, I like the Brewers side. I like the Brewers first 5 minus the hook. I like the Brewers to get to 5 today at plus 105 as well.
I like it, and I was kind of trying to add after tonight, because I agree with you. I whether maybe not tomorrow necessarily, but at some point here, this Brewers offense is going to come down to earth, as we kind of saw over the course of the last 2 seasons. You got to give your hats off to them for what they've built organizationally to be able to develop players and play sound baseball. Because there are obviously a market that hasn't spent a ton of money and offensively hasn't been great these last handful of years, still in position to obviously make a run at the division. They should come back down to earth offensively, and they don't quite have the same horses in their pitching staff that they did the last couple of years. So I was looking at today. Great chance, I think, if you believe in one of these other NL Central teams, Cubs, Cardinals, Reds. I know, in my opinion, the Cubs are at least the steadiest team that should at least be lurking, if not take advantage of this division here in the next few weeks. So I do think it's a good opportunity here as these Brewers and Pirates continue to do what they've done the last couple of weeks as we start the season, to maybe look at some of these other teams in the NL Central for the division there at some plus money. So moving on from that one, let's see here. You've got were you surprised to see you've got Max Fried on the mound? And I haven't seen a lot of these Marlins lines to compare them necessarily. Minus 118 on the run line for Atlanta in Miami, who is 2-11, about as bad as my White Sox have been. Trevor Rogers, who a couple of years ago looked like going to be one of the breakout studs in the MLB, has not been good last year, and I don't know if it's 1 or 2 starts this year, not so good. Would you have respected a bigger number for Atlanta, maybe tougher to get into that run line? Is that a little too good to be true tonight for the Atlanta Braves?
You know, when you get the Atlanta Braves, when you get the LA Dodgers on the road, what are you getting? You're getting 27 guaranteed outs. You're getting 9 full at bats. You don't have to worry when they're at home, are they batting in the ninth or not. So you're gonna have to pay the tax here. If their team totals 5.5 juiced under minus 130. So again, if you like the Braves and you don't want to play the money line, and if you don't want to play the run line, you're going to need a touchdown today. You don't have to worry about the extra point, but you can get the Braves to get to 6 or better at plus 110. Now, here's the caveat. The under-over right now is only at 8.5. So the Vegas is telling you, well, if they're going to get to 6 and the game goes under, the final score is going to be 6-2, 6-1, or 6-0. So you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't know if you have the numbers in front of you, Riley, but Max Fried has been fried, hasn't he, his last 2 starts? He has not been good.
So opening, I don't know if this was maybe not opening day. His first start, he didn't make it through the first inning, 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks. Last start against Arizona, 4 1/3, 10 hits, 7 earned runs, a homer, a walk, and 5 Ks. So you are correct. He has been fried free so far this year.
So something's going to give tonight, whether it is that Trevor Rogers that we thought was potentially going to be the next coming to Sandy Koufax, which has never shown up, or the Marlins at home on Friday night. I can just, our good friend here, Craig Mish on Sports Grid's probably shaking his head. We're 2-11, and I got to go through how many more games of this? Something's going to give there. God, closed dome environment. You're going to put this Braves team up against Trevor. I guess if I had to play the game, I would maybe take a shot at the Marlins team total over 3.5. You can get that at plus 05. I guess the Braves to get to 6 or better, you're going to give me plus 110. I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways. You got to really be confident in whatever you're doing if you are doing it. It's not if you're throwing a dart at the dartboard, you're going to pick the wrong option there on that one. And there's going to be the other 3 that we're talking about get to the window. So if you're doing anything, you got to be at least confident in it. So at least one to talk about in an interesting case there. Let's see. You've got a 9-4 Kansas City team that I think people are waking up to see what they've done with Michael Wacha on the mound in New York at a 5-7 Mets team as dogs here. Is that a spot where you're believing in the Mets to maybe get one back and get closer to 500? I don't know how many in a row we've got for Kansas City here, but it's at least 5 in a row here.
The Kansas City train offensively, Vinny Pasquantino, shout out to Sean Childs. That's one of his binkies coming alive. A lot of people now anointing Bobby Witt Jr. as the number one pick next year in Fantasyland. He has just been lights out. A Mets team that we all was dead and buried the start of the season, had a great turnout in Atlanta. Now get to come back home to Citi Field to their beloved fans. This is where you want to say the momentum stays, but this is usually where they lay the clunker. I do not believe in Severino. Michael Walker, formerly of the Cardinals, so obviously the Mets have seen him a million times. If I was to ride in this game, I think I'd take a shot at the Kansas City Royals team total over 3.5. The only downside is you got to lay some juice. I'm seeing 25 cents or 30 cents, but I think the Royals tonight can get to 4 or better against Mr. Severino.
Yeah, if this one was a flat 8 or lower, then I would have believed in maybe a good pitching matchup here, but not quite the case there. So, and I mean, the Mets are, a lot of times when the Mets put up 16 yesterday, so we also know how that often goes. The day after you put up double-digit runs in baseball is sometimes not good. So, but having said that, the Royals also just put up 11 and 13. So something's got to give. But I'm with you. It's not a cannonball either way. But if Kansas City runs through this one, then the public is going to start being all over this Royals team going forward into next week for sure. There. Let's see. Anything else that you've got? Obviously, some good matchups here. Cubs are in Seattle. San Diego and the Dodgers, Texas and Houston. Obviously, Houston 4-10 needs to start making some waves here. There's a good chance here. Not going to be buried necessarily, but obviously a rivalry matchup that is going to be pretty important. Texas the last week has not been good. AL West has been a little weird. Anything to see of this game in Texas and Houston tonight?
Yeah, the Houston's burning money, and I had this matchup. I had Houston team total against Dunning. We lost on that one. They're begging you to take it again. 4.5 over is now minus 125. I will not be releasing that tonight to the ECSI VIPs, but anyone watching and listening, the Astros will score 5 or more tonight. You can mark that one down. I will not release it there. Usually when you see a pitcher the second time, the results from the first time don't match what happens in the second. The one that I wanted you to talk about, and I knew you weren't going to, Abbott versus Flexen in your neck of the woods. The reason I'm saying it is, it's an under over a 9. You said the wind's howling. Listen, we had hurricane here. Basically, we had 40, 50 mile an hour winds. We had 2-3 inches of rain here, and roads flooded everywhere. But my point is, you're going to give me the Reds. You're going to give me 9 innings, guaranteed 27 outs. Yeah, I need a touchdown. I get that point. Team total over 5.5. Minus 5 cents. I'm sorry, plus 5 cents. I'm taking the Reds tonight to get to 6 or better. Give me the 27 guaranteed outs. Flexing couldn't break a pane of glass. I went against them the last time out, and I lost. Me and Scotty Webb did a show there, but I'm taking the Reds team total to get to 6 or better tonight in Chicago.
More than okay. It was on my agenda to talk about. What the issue that always happens. It's at the top of my list because it's listed as one of my favorite teams on this app that I use to at least talk while we're doing this, and then I forget about it as I go along down the line there. So I wanted to talk about it. It is a windy day. There is going to be some balls flying in this one potentially for sure. Certainly safe to think that it could be flying off of Flexen or this. Embarrassing Ross that is the White Sox bullpen there. So, there's going to be some fireworks here. The White Sox last 2 days, I think, they ended up winning one of them. Jumped out to a 5-0 lead against Cleveland, and both of them squandered the lead throughout the rest of each of those games. Won one of them, and then lost in extras the other one the other day, yesterday, the day before, I don't remember. But nonetheless, not a lot of optimism for old Chris Flexen these days. He had a nice, whether it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he had a nice little run with Seattle. But that ship has sailed, I think is safe to say. And one of the fade candidates, I think, in the early seasons here, even first 5, Reds first 5, I would endorse for sure here against Flexen.
I agree there, and I'm just looking at the rest of the board here. I think a later game tonight, St. Louis and Arizona, Mats versus Fat. Fat had a great second half and a great playoff run. under over a 9. I'm not a big soft tosser. I think Arizona can get to 5 there, but you got to lay some juice, some 25 cents there. And I like St. Louis on the other side too to get to 5, and you can get that at even money there. San Diego travels to the Dodgers. King versus Yamamoto. Again, the Dodgers, you're not guaranteed 27 out. You're guaranteed 24 tonight. And so I stay away from the team total. And they're baiting you here tonight, guys. The Dodger team total is 4.5 over minus 25 cents. So they're lining up windows to say, hey, come get the Dodgers to get to 5 or better tonight. I would take a look at the under 8.5 in that game there. My Red Sox, Houck versus Detmers. They had success in Anaheim. Now you get the rematch here. I have no faith right now in the Red Sox. I would probably look at the Angels to get to 5 or better tonight, plus 5 cents there. San Fran at Tampa. Interesting on this one, Riley. San Fran's team total was 3.5 over minus 145. Now at Heritage, they moved it to 4.5 under minus 140. So the team the under over is 8.5. I think that goes under 8.5 there. Colorado, Toronto, first game back from Gosman, or did they not sit? I know his last 2 games, the velocity on Gosman has been down. So I don't think they sat him yet, right? He hasn't come off the IL.
No. He pitched on this past Saturday. He did pitch this past Saturday. Only pitched an inning in the third, but I don't think he went out of the IL, if that's what you're asking.
All right, so Colorado comes to town. They're really baiting you here, guys. The Colorado team total's 2.5, but it's juiced over minus 150 or 155. And here's a Toronto team struggling offensively. Their team total's only 4.5, and it's over minus 125. I would probably look, and I don't know, Riley, if you got the numbers in front of me. What is Gosman's first 5 minus the hook tonight? Is that heavily juiced?
Give me 2 seconds and I'll have it. Let's see. I would imagine it's I see about 145 minus 145, 150.
I think you get a bounce back here from Gosman. He can't pitch any worse. If he does pitch as worse as he did his last outing, he is going on the IL with the other 50 pitchers that are there. So that's too much juice for me there. I guess we'll close with this one. A great game. Chicago Cubs travel to Seattle. Wicks versus Miller. Both team totals 3.5. One minus 25 cents for the Cubs. The Seattle minus 35 cents. First 1 to 4 wins this game. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree with that. I've been waiting for a Miller to kind of break out, so I'm curious to see what happens with that situation there. But no, I agree with you. I think this is 4-2, 4-1 game. I'd be interested in this one staying under to some degree. Maybe like I said, 3-0, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2 type game. Cubs, the Cubs are a team that I do kind of believe in to be steady enough, as I was saying, to at least, if they're not running away with the division, at least kind of be lurking or treading water at the top of the division here, so to speak. So I'll say the Cubs get this, the Mariners get this victory. And maybe the Cubs have a little damage the rest of the weekend here against Seattle.
I'm going to give you some quick updates before we go to the closing thought. DeChambeau bogeys 18 to go closed, +1 for the day, -6. Scotty Scheffler now -7, 1 under for the day through 11, the outright leader. And I know you're staring at that. I wanted to give a couple scenarios, and then I'll ask for your closing thoughts. Right now, the current cut line is now changed to +5. Ooh. Wow, that just moved as we speak. I was going to add some scenarios because at +3, we had Batia that won last week, Rory at +3. Now McCarthy Singh. Okay, the Gala is at +4. Neiman, Matsuyama, Rahm, is at +4. So the 5s are in right now. And that was my question. Rahm is +4 through 12. Neiman and Matsuyama +4 through 14 and 12. My question to you was Rory. He would have had one shot to play with. Now he's got 2 at 11. So your 6s, Hovland.
Yep.
He's now got a breath of fresh air. So closing thoughts as we always end here.
Yeah, it's and I'm staring at Schauffele, who's been that didn't build on the momentum that we were talking at the beginning of the show there. The other one that would have to make a little bit of a surge, Ricky, I think Fowler is at 7 over with a handful to play. So if he can put together a couple of birdies, can get himself in there. Himself and Hovland are really the only two on the outside looking in right now that I think have a legitimate chance of getting in there. Hovland still has most of the back 9, I believe, here, but and not a lot of guys at that 5 line. That Sergio is one of them. I think he's about to be on 18, so obviously he's got a a par or better that one to stay in this thing. Rahm's at that 4 over line, so obviously, and same with Wyndham Clark, who we haven't talked about at all. Needs to obviously tread water, or obviously, or they would hope, but Matsuyama still treading water right at that 4. Neiman, that I'm now realizing has hit some blow-ups. He's at that 4 line, so he's in danger of slipping past. He's 5 over on the back 9 here through 5 holes with the double bogey there. So Neiman kind of playing himself out of this thing, so that's obviously ugly there. But with the double himself there. So as this day is going on, there's some ugly scores. Anyone that got out of this thing in good standings is obviously patting themselves on the back, because even Scotty, only 1 under for the day, is still trying to tread water at the top there. Bryson drops back. Højgaard drops back. Danny Willett, I saw a triple bow one to put himself out of serious contention there, at least at the top of the board. So as far as closing thoughts are concerned, like I said, I think tomorrow's going to be a huge moving day, where there's going to be some better scores, more a handful of 4, 5, 6 under scores there, as well as some ugly scores on top of things. So I think the leaderboard is going to be a very different 24 hours from now as we head into the end of the third round there. But I was interested to see. It's a big cut line. Obviously, I think earlier in the day it was 2-3 over that was the projected cut line. So a lot of guys that are, getting, like you said, a breath of fresh air there. And a couple guys that still got a little bit of work to do the rest of the day here to make sure they're still in that little cut line there.
Yeah, and I was just, I was talking to you backstage, and I'll tell the whole world, I am probably the most superstitious person in the history of mankind. And especially in these lanes, it's so hard. And I explain it to everyone, and they just look and laugh. I was telling Riley backstage a handful of years ago, we had DJ. We had given out on the golf show, and he was just rolling, and I turn it on, and he duffs one into the water and then into the trees. He double bogeys. I shut it off, and of course he still won it. I did a baseball show with Matt Grissom and with Quentin Mills, and I turned the show on. We've wrapped up the show. I turned the golf on, and I watched DeChambeau bogey, and I'm like, all right, Scotty's finally got a 1-shot lead. Scotty's got a 3-footer, hits the back of it, and he bogeys. So it was the first bogey for the whole tournament for Scotty Scheffler. It's like, all right, I'll watch their drives. DeChambeau hits one into the woods. I'm like, that's good. Scheffler hits one into the woods. Well, long story short, he bogeyed again, back-to-back bogeys. So my point is, I started this show. Scheffler was 3 back. Me and Riley are 1 hour and 24 minutes into the show. He goes from 3 back to 1 up, and I haven't even watched 1 second of it. I'm telling you, I can't watch this shit.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. And I think of all golfers that you and I obviously I don't even want to say it, but of all people that could make you feel the most comfortable other than Tiger in his prime, I feel like Scotty Scheffler right now is a contender for that. But obviously, I mean, the way, like I said, there's going to be some guys putting up some low numbers tomorrow. So Scotty could absolutely be one of them. But I don't blame you. I think you can, keep it off here at least the rest of this day. The way the wind is going today, I would say maybe take a break from the rest of today with Scotty here. He works through this back 9 because the wind, it looks like a little better than when we saw Tiger at the beginning of the show. But it's going to be bizarre today. And then hopefully our guys can get rolling tomorrow here.
And with some of these big scores, and again, I just sent something to my buddy here. I was like, the cut line, as we was just talking, went to 5, and he said, LOL, it might go to 6. And Scheffler is the one outlier where if he is able to navigate the back, and obviously if you could sign up right now to post that, 1 under for the day, -7, knowing the conditions the next 2 days, he would sign up in a heartbeat. But he's that one guy that could miraculously end the day -3, go out and shoot a 69, and he'll be -9. And the next closest one, which would probably be still DeChambeau, but give Scotty a 2 or 3 shot lead in ideal situations the next 2 days with those guys that make the cut at +5, +4, +3, even the big name guys, the Hovlands, the Rahms, the Rorys. And you got to go stick hunting on moving day, and you got to go for that, 63, 64, just to hope to be hanging around.
Right, and to give some respect to Max Homa, the way he's looking, he could absolutely contend for this thing 100%. We just haven't seen him do it in a major once he's been at this point by any means, really. He's obviously climbed that hump for some of the bigger non-major tournaments that he's won the last couple of years here that Sergi had. If he continues to play the way he's playing, he's absolutely going to be in this thing. So that's the only guy that you got to give some respect to. But, of course, he could show up tomorrow and, for lack of a better term, shit down his leg and be 3 over after the end of the day, and he's out of this thing, and we the same old story goes for him. So a lot of these guys just got to get through this last half of the back 9 here without any more implosions, and it's really a shame because some of these guys are kind of playing themselves out of it as compared to what we looked like an hour and a half, 2 hours ago here for some of these guys.
Absolutely. And again, it was great to be back. You and I, we tipped the scale. The under over was 1 hour and 12 minutes, and we went blowing past it. So me and Riley are going to try to be back Sunday morning before the Masters tees off. We'll talk some bases. We'll give you a Masters update. Maybe we can peel the layers back a few to take a swing or two to give you some of that Sunday sweats that we're all talking about. Tomorrow, potentially, might have a baseball show with Scott Webb later in the afternoon to talk about the baseball slate. I know I've said closing thoughts the last 28 times. I got to give you 2-3 minutes if you want it. UFC 300 on Saturday. You see anything there?
Nothing that's blowing my doors off or anything like that. I am going to be watching. It is a hell of a card. Not the unfortunately for anyone who's not a diehard, the main event and the co-main event are probably not going to have people jumping out of there necessarily, but from top to bottom, this is one of the deepest cards that we've had in a while. I mean, the early prelims to start the night off is Davis and Figueiredo against Cody Garbrandt. So I mean, fight after fight, any single one of these fights that are on the prelims would be on your average pay-per-view. So as far as watchability, all of these fights are awesome fights, just not quite the star-studded main event, co-main event. Justin Gaethje, Max Holloway is an awesome fight. I'm excited for that one. Not talking about the main 2 fights, but outside of that, there's some underdogs that are worth a look, where you might have an underdog up against a guy that's got a better name than him that more people are probably going to be flocking to. For example, I mean, the Justin Gaethje Max Holloway fight is a tough one. That one could go either way. Justin Gaethje hasn't been beaten by anyone other than Khabib and I'm pulling it up in a second. I'm drawing a blank. Other than Khabib and Ola, both of them by submission. He hasn't been beaten any other way other than a submission in 6 years. So I think it is warranted that he's the favorite, but Max Holloway is still a stud. So I lean towards Gaethje. I just think the line could be a little closer on that one. So sometimes I kind of tend to shift over to the underdog when I think they're a little undervalued. Oliveira himself is a decent-sized underdog. I think that's probably going to be the trendy underdog pick because not a lot of people know who his opponent is, but he's still a very bad man. Another guy who hasn't really lost other than losing his belt to Makhachev. He hasn't lost in a dozen fights going back to 2017. So he is still a very, very dangerous guy. However, his opponent hasn't lost via submission ever. He's submitted a few people himself, so that one's going to be a really good one as well. So there's a few underdogs that I'm interested in. I could see Aljamain, who very recently, his last fight was a title fight against Sean O'Malley, and he's on one of the prelims. Was in title fights for 5 straight fights, and he's on one of the prelims. He is a favorite, but I could see him. I was never that high on Sterling. He looked great in the second fight against Petr Yan. And then after that, fought some guys who are on the back half of their career, Dillashaw, Cejudo, and then obviously lost to Sean O'Malley. Calvin Cutter's not anyone that I've ever had a ton of faith in. However, I'm just not a huge believer in Sterling. So I think Calvin Cutter is a guy, another underdog to take a look at there. There's just some really, really good fights outside of that. Jerry Prochaska is a bad man. That one is going to be a really good one. And then there was one other one that I was interested in the underdog. Marina Rodriguez, 2 Brazilians fighting Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez. Rodriguez is another one that I was interested in. So a lot of dogs that I have some interest in dogs when I think they're just a little undervalued. And then obviously if you take 4 underdogs at plus money and you get 2 of them, 2 and 2, then you're in the profit from that landscape of it there. So a handful of underdogs, some of these close underdogs that I think could be making some money here tomorrow night in the UFC in Vegas, my friend.
Well, again, great show. Me and Riley, keep an eye on our timelines, potential show on Sunday morning to talk the Masters, of course, and we'll talk the Sunday baseball card as well. Tomorrow, potentially keep an eye on the timeline for myself and Scotty Webb to be doing a baseball show for the afternoon and evening card. Shout out to Matt Grissom and Quentin Mills for our baseball show. College baseball show earlier today, 3 Men in a Box. Shout out to all our guests, Travis Geiger from Wager Wire. Thank you for your sponsorship and partnership with us. Julian Edlow, generally Thursday mornings with the Breakfast Bankroll, had some prior obligations, was able to come on with us on Wednesday to talk locals and DraftKings. And Andrew McGinnis also came on this week from Wager Talk. And, of course, McGinnis Picks, talking some NHL. So it's been a great week, and more to come each day and each week, each month. We're 3 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. We'll be talking some that, and, of course, NBA playoffs coming up, and in a couple weeks, NHL playoffs. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Riley Magnuson at Riley_Magnuson. The one. We wish everyone a blessed Friday, a great weekend. Don't be the pizza man. Shout out again to Mr. Lucky, Senor Lucky. Have a great weekend. Hug the fam for us, and we will see everyone soon.